We're going to begin the 9th grade versus 10th grade debate on euthanasia. We're now going to start with the affirmative opening statement from the affirmative side. Speakers, please stand from the affirmative side. Take your seat. Take the podium. You'll have 4 minutes to start whenever you're ready. Time starts now.
Hi, my name is Johan Tom, and I'm doing the opening statement. Let it be resolved that euthanasia should be approved as a federal law of the United States. We both watched my husband die from the illness and knew the distress and agony it could cause. Nigel knew what was going on and that he did not want to be around to suffer anymore. On his 42nd birthday, he told me the best present I could give him would be to end his life, said Heather Pratton, Nigel's mom. Nigel Pratton had a hereditary disorder inherited from his father called Huntington's disease. That causes neurons to break down and die. When people such as Nigel are suffering from a terminally ill disease and can't relieve their agony, it's a violation of their human rights and a violation of them as a person. Death is, of course, not the first option or answer to any difficult situation in life. But for a person in a serious health situation that has little to no chance of surviving, euthanasia seems like a better and kinder option to be given. Neither the government nor religious institutions should impose their own opinions, especially if the individual is terminally ill and the quality of his or her life does not seem to be improving. A person is eligible for euthanasia when they are in a lot of pain and their health does not seem to be improving, and keeping them alive seems like torment rather than help for the patient. Euthanasia often is a better idea, as many patients may find ways to attempt suicide, which is worse and could be more horrifying and depressing for their loved ones. People in the US suffer from a variety of diseases, some worse than others. If a person suffering from stage 3 to 4 cancer has had treatments and so far have had little to no impact on the patient's health, he or she could be eligible for euthanasia. Many terminally ill patients want assisted suicide because it is a way to endure their end without the unnecessary suffering. Terminally ill patients should be allowed to die with dignity. Choosing the right to assisted suicide would be a final exercise of autonomy for the dying. They will not be seen as people who are waiting to die, but as human beings making one final active choice in their life. People go through physical and emotional suffering that can cause their lives to become very difficult. In an attempt to relieve this suffering, some people seek euthanasia. This can provide people with a better and less upsetting way to end their lives, ensuring their last moments are dignified and peaceful, and allowing them to escape the suffering they were forced to endure. One of many reasons why people choose to receive euthanasia is a poor quality of life, including a line of serious illnesses, or in the final stages of their life. There are a lot of factors that can cause an individual's quality of life to decline. Many people's suffering come from a physical deterioration associated with their condition. This can manifest itself as pain, a loss of normal abilities, or as other diseases. Euthanasia may not be always a good choice, but it often is a better choice. Thank you.
Thank you. You will now hear from the negative opening statement. Speakers, please take the podium. You have 4 minutes. Your time will start now.
Hi, my name is Andrea Green, and be resolved that euthanasia should be illegal in the United States. Now, as a new doctor, I solemnly promise that I will, to the best of my ability, serve humanity, caring for the sick, promoting good health, alleviating pain and suffering. I recognize that the practice of medicine is a privilege, which comes with certain responsibility, and I will not abuse my position. This is the oath that doctors recite during the graduation ceremony for med school. If the doctors who recite this oath have any respect for or commitment to this oath, then no physician will administer a euthanasia, a topic which many people have strong opinions on. Euthanasia is the so-called painless killing of a person experiencing great pain, suffering, or an irreversible coma. While there are multiple different ways to administer euthanasia, along with voluntary and involuntary euthanasia, it all comes down to one thing: killing. A doctor who administers a euthanasia, along with those who agree and consent to such a heinous action, are both committing grave mistakes that take away from one of the main rights of every human being, the right to life. According to a Penn Medicine article about the euthanasia and the percent of people doing euthanasia by Joe Adetenji, around 0.3% to 4.6% of all global deaths are reported to be physician-assisted deaths. The current world population is over 7.88 billion people. That means anywhere from 31.2 million to 358 million people have died and continue to die from euthanasia. Because of the eagerness of people to do such a morbid procedure, lethal injection has taken the lives of so many, to the point where they have reached the population of some known countries. The total population of Vatican City, Iceland, and the Bahamas are individually less than or equal to the number of euthanasias performed. One of the many reasons why euthanasia is wrong is because there are very rare instances in which alternative treatments to euthanasia are not available. Treatment like palliative and hospice care are designed specially to prioritize the comfort and the quality of the patient by reducing their pain and suffering. If there are alternative techniques than killing someone, then those methods must be prioritized and used. Another reason why euthanasia is wrong is because in at least some cases of euthanasia, it is involuntary. This means that the person that is euthanized has no say in whether he or she continues living or not. Normalizing such a cruel action and making it commonplace dehumanizes the sick and the ill, taking away from the very value of life. Another point that could be made about euthanasia is that the cost of euthanasia comes up to about $3,000 or more, according to a National Public Radio article written by Katie Orr, looking at the increase in euthanasia prices. A separate point that could be made about why euthanasia is wrong is that the money spent by an individual for euthanasia could be spent A, trying to extend or save the individual's life, B, it could be spent towards finding an alternative treatment for the individual, or C, it could fund research for the illness the person has. Because there are other options in most cases other than euthanasia, because euthanasia is sometimes involuntary with no say from the ill person, and because the money spent on the euthanasia could be used for other purposes beneficial to the ill person and people in a similar state, we, the negative side of this debate on euthanasia, believe that euthanasia should be completely illegal.
Thank you for that. We will now proceed to the affirmative rebuttal. Speakers, please take the podium whenever you're ready. You'll have 3 minutes. Your time starts now.
My name is Ann Matthews, and this is my partner, Joanna Thomas, and we will keep giving the rebuttal. The opposition argues that humans don't have the right to take away life, but euthanasia is only an option for terminally ill patients. Unfortunately, they're sick enough to the point where there's little to no chance of them healing. Instead of stretching out the agony until the patient dies, euthanasia provides a quick and painless relief to their burdens. Doctors promise to alleviate pain and suffering in the Hippocratic Oath with euthanasia provides.
The opposition will have you believe that there are other solutions to the pain, such as painkillers, but euthanasia is only a last case scenario once everything else has been tried and tested. If there really was a drug for the patient that works as a solution to their pain, euthanasia wouldn't be considered anymore because the patient is relieved of their suffering. But in some cases, narcotics might not work as pain relief, like AIDS, terminal cancer, neuropathy, post-therapeutic neuralgia, and others. Opioids don't work on approximately 20% of cancer patients, according to the Western Journal of Medicine. Additionally, these drugs can have side effects, and over a long period of time, these drugs can depress respiration and quicken death. It works as a much slower version of euthanasia. If the patient doesn't die from these drugs, then they could also end up with a drug addiction.
Some may argue that the patient isn't in the right state of mind to make this decision, but doctors can judge if the patient is in the right state of mind, and if they declare a patient as mentally unstable, your family members can decide for you. Mental Health America says that, quote, it's possible that these decisions should be made by family members who don't know or respect your preferences. You can avoid this by designating a trusting person to make decisions on your behalf when you're unable to make them yourself, end quote. Choosing a power of attorney will allow the best decisions to be made and keep your interest in heart. So even if the patient isn't in the right state of mind, the power of the attorney is.
People against euthanasia will argue that the money being used for euthanasia could be used for other medications to help prolong the life of terminally ill patients. But the average cost of euthanasia is about $3,000, and the average cost for one round of chemotherapy is $10,000. So it would not be beneficial for the patient to go through treatment rather than to end the life of the patient on his own terms.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have the negative side rebuttal. Speakers, please take the podium. You will have 3 minutes. Whenever you're ready, we will start. Your time starts now.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Thomas, and I'm here with Agna Vedethal, and we are the speakers for the negative rebuttal. The affirmative side believes that euthanizing a patient who is terminally ill is better than allowing them to suffer. This idea is flawed because euthanizing a patient is not the only option to relieve pain and suffering. Hospice and palliative care are available to help alleviate their pain and suffering. With the technology we have available today, there are more opportunities to find cures to incurable diseases. And even if the disease has no cure, there are resources to help lessen the pain of the patients. The affirmative side also believes that if a patient wants a euthanasia, they should not be denied that. Patients may not be in a good enough mindset to make this life-changing decision. Many ill patients believe that it is better to be euthanized and be a burden to their family. The U.S. National Library of Medicine states, studies in Oregon and Washington in 2010 have shown that nearly 25% of people who have died from ingestion of lethal drugs did so because they did not want to be a burden of their family.
Furthermore, another point stated by the affirmative side is that not allowing euthanasia is a violation of life. This is inaccurate because this is an inhumane action which is allowing someone to kill themselves, as it takes away the dignity of the ruin point of life and the sick and old.
Thank you. We will now reserve 2 minutes for discussion amongst the teams for the upcoming segment, The Crossfire. Time starts now. Your discussion time is up. We will now begin the crossfire segment. 2 minutes. Crossfire representatives for both teams, please stand to the front. Your 2 minutes of crossfire starts now.
Most people do not support or encourage suicide. So why should we encourage assisted suicide? If reasons for suicide like depression, pain, and difficulties are given, and we do not find them justifiable reasons to kill yourself, then why should we justify the reasoning given for assisted suicide?
Physician-assisted suicide should be allowed. The reason why is physician-assisted suicide is only done with consent. It is only done by the patient if they're in sound mind.
What if the consent is not given? For a person who is terminally ill, who is in a coma or brain dead, they cannot make a decision on their own. How would you decide for a person like that, whether they continue living or not?
Doctors and family, along with the power of an attorney, can decide if the patient would like physician-assisted suicide. They use their best judgment to decide this.
How do you ensure the rights of individuals to choose euthanasia are respected and are not overridden by family or relatives or others?
Can you repeat that?
How do you ensure the rights of individuals to choose euthanasia are respected and are not overridden by family or relatives or others?
If families are deciding, it's not by close family, it's by people using their own opinions. And also, it can also be used by a patient. A patient, in the beginning of their treatment, if they're not being close to if they're not close to death and they're like currently doing fine, they can still talk about future choices. You guys say that there are other options, but painkillers don't work on 20% of cancer patients. What do you have to say about that?
The rest 80% of people who receive these painkillers work. You also say painkillers. These are not just painkillers. These are severe painkillers that a small dose could alleviate most pain, like morphine, hydrocodone, oxycodone. Those type of painkillers are severe painkillers and are meant to alleviate all types of pain.
Time is up for the crossfire. Please return to your seats. We will now hear from the closing statement for the affirmative side of euthanasia. Speaker, please take the podium. You will have 4 minutes for the closing statement. Your time starts now.
My name is Jeff Joby, and I'm here to deliver the conclusion for the affirmative side. Euthanasia is one of the most controversial and highly debated topics in modern medicine. Even though many people are against euthanasia, more and more people are beginning to understand and respect the choices of those who are terminally ill. First, patients should have the right to make decisions about their own life. It is a basic human right to have control over their body and make decisions, including the choice to decide when and how they want to die. Euthanasia would allow the patients to be relieved from the suffering and pain that they are experiencing. It is unjust to deny them this fundamental human right, especially when people denying them can't even begin to understand the agony that they are going through. Patients who are diagnosed with terminally ill illnesses are suffering and have no chance of recovery. Instead, euthanasia gives them the option to relieve the pain and rest easily. People who are against euthanasia believe it is unethical. However, the majority of terminally ill patients are already receiving palliative care and narcotics, which is meant to relieve the pain and suffering. But in some cases, it isn't enough to relieve the patient's pain. In these situations, euthanasia is the best option, as it can end the patient's suffering and allow them to rest easily. Those against euthanasia also argue that legalizing euthanasia in the US could lead to abuse, such as allowing individuals who are not terminally ill to be euthanized. In reality, legalizing euthanasia would actually create strict rules and regulations, ensuring that the process of euthanasia is only available to individuals who are suffering heavily and terminally ill. Furthermore, legalizing euthanasia will not only benefit those who are terminally ill, but also their loved ones. Families and caregivers of the patients usually suffer along with the patient as they watch them die slowly and watch the pain that the patient goes through because they can't do anything to help their loved one. Euthanasia allows the family to know that the patient will rest easily and that they can say their final goodbyes. In conclusion, euthanasia is a complicated issue that requires careful consideration and discussion. However, it is clear that it would do more good than harm. By legalizing euthanasia, individuals would have the right of self-determination about their own lives. They would no longer have to suffer, and they would be able to rest easily. Their families won't have to sit back and watch them suffer because they can't help the patient. Strict laws would be adapted to prevent abuses of euthanasia. Doctors shouldn't sit back and watch their patients suffer, but respect their choice to end their agony and help them do it painlessly so that they can rest easily.
Thank you. We will now move on to the closing statement for the negative side of euthanasia. Speaker, please take the stand. You will have 4 minutes. Your time starts now.
Hi, my name is Lucy Jojo, and I'm the speaker for the closing statement for the negative side on the debate on euthanasia. Throughout this debate, you, the judges, have seen how the affirmative side has failed to prove their points on euthanasia. You've also seen how we, the negative side, has proved why euthanasia is wrong multiple times. Because there are alternatives, in most cases other than euthanasia, to subdue the pain felt by the patient, because euthanasia is sometimes involuntary with no say from the ill person, and because the money spent on a euthanasia could be used for other purposes beneficial to the ill person and people in a similar state. We, the negative side of this debate, believe that euthanasia should be completely illegal. Many people believe that euthanasia is the only alternative for those experiencing severe pain or are in an irreversible state. This idea is false, as there are many different treatments and medications for a person experiencing severe pain. Medicines like fentanyl, morphine, and hydrocodone are severe painkillers used to take away extreme pain. For those who are in an irreversible state or whose illness does not have a treatment, options like palliative and hospice care are made to prioritize the comfort of their life. In most cases, though, there is an available treatment or care option that a person could use to extend their life rather than ending it. Another reason why euthanasia should be illegal is because there are cases in which the ill person does not have a say in whether they continue living or not. People who are in a coma or in a state where they cannot make a decision about themselves are sometimes euthanized without any say. This practice is wrong and should not be encouraged. Physicians, other medical staff, and even the relatives of the sick person should not be involved in the process of ending that person's life, especially without the consent of the individual. Recently, the cost for performing a euthanasia has come up to $3,000. Rather than euthanizing a person, this money could be used to attempt to extend the patient's life by using available medicine, lessen their pain through countless different types of treatment options, or help fund research for possible cures or treatments for their illness. When a person reaches the terminal stage of their illness, they typically have 6 months or less before death. However, life expectancy is not always accurate, which means patients may live longer than predicted. Using available medicine and treatment options could help extend their life and even possibly cure their illness. Even if a person is expected to have a shorter life expectancy, the money could be used to provide comfort to the patient in an attempt to extend their life. Money spent on performing a euthanasia could be rather spent on different care options aimed at providing comfort for the unwell. Lastly, rather than resorting to a morbid action like euthanasia, an individual could use the money to help fund research for a cure for their illness, thus providing an opportunity to themselves and others in a similar state to become well again. Euthanasia, the so-called process of killing a person who is suffering, does not do anything to provide comfort or show love for the family of the individual, and more importantly, the individual themselves. Rather, it showcases the lack of respect and care we have for the terminally ill and those who are dying. By legalizing such a heinous action like euthanasia, we are promoting death and showing our lack of care for and concern for the ill and the sick. Therefore, we, the negative side of this debate, believe that euthanasia should be completely and totally illegal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now's your time. You can express your gratitude and applaud our lovely debate team. Debate team for that. We will now hear from Dr. Diane Groth, and she has a speech for all of us. for 10 minutes. Whenever you're ready, Dr. Diane Ingram.
Thank you very much. Thanks so much. Thank you. Okay, thank you. I just have to say, first of all, congratulations to all of the speakers. You've done excellent in your research, your speaking, everything. I'm just so impressed, extremely impressed. You've done your homework, you've done your research. I'm highly impressed. Okay, so I've been given just a few moments to give the Catholic perspective on the death penalty as always, and also on euthanasia. And so, first of all, we'll talk about the Catholic perspective on the death penalty. And first of all, in the from the research I have found from the year 2015 to 2020, 136 people were executed by the federal government or the state government within the United States. Okay, these people did not have a chance for reconciliation or repentance for their sins, and so that is the Catholic perspective on that. Briefly, there is a brief history regarding the death penalty, and again, throughout the Catholic Church's history, originally the Catholic Church did support the death penalty, mainly because it took these criminals off the street for the safety of the people who lived in the villages. However, as we went through and as the Catholic Church progressed over time, it was in the United States in the 20th century that the popes began to look at the death penalty. It was Pope John Paul XXIII and Pope John Paul VI who were intimately against the state executions of the death penalty. St. John Paul II actually proposed the death penalty opposition in the United States and in the church. As a young man in Poland, John Paul II witnessed many executions by the death penalty while he was under the Nazi regime, and he witnessed these. And so his information, his mindset was really tainted against the death penalty, mainly because innocent people were really killed. Okay, as we move along, St. John Paul II demanded the end to the death penalty. Pope Benedict followed that and said that there will be no death penalty within the Catholic Church. This is also followed by Pope Francis insisting that the Church is firmly committed to calling for the abolition worldwide of the death penalty. And in conclusion regarding the death penalty, the faithful are today morally obligated to oppose the death penalty, and they may not support executions, and also Catholics may not in good conscience endorse laws that allow capital punishment. Thank you. So now we go into the euthanasia aspect from the perspective of the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church says about euthanasia is contrary to the will of God. Scripture has many references regarding as to how God created us. God has a purpose for everyone's life. He reserves the right to call everyone home. He cares for everyone, and our suffering in this life purifies us, and so that we will be ready to go into heaven when He calls us into heaven. And only God has authority over our lives. Only God can extend or end our lives. No other one. Even in Scripture does not mention euthanasia explicitly. The Scripture provides a firm basis for Catholic teaching on euthanasia. We are God's finest creation. We are the only creations made in God's image, and we have no right to destroy ourselves. Further, the fifth commandment does not refer only to acts committed against others. The fifth commandment prohibits the abuse and destruction of our own bodies and souls through murder. Everyone is responsible for his life before God, who has been given to him. It is God who remains the sovereign master of our life, and it is God who will dispose of our lives, no one else. From the very beginning, all true Christians have looked upon both suicide and murder as grave sins. In his great work, The City of God, St. Augustine writes, Christians have no authority to commit suicide in any circumstance. The Catholic Church in the 1980 Declaration on Euthanasia stated, No one is permitted to ask for this act of killing, either for himself or herself, as an act of mercy killing, to relieve pain, to relieve whatever may go on. No one is allowed to ask to end his or her own life. Further, the bishops of Ireland show that the church recognizes that euthanasia is intrinsically evil. Deliberately to take one's own life is suicide and is gravely wrong in all circumstances. To cooperate with another in taking his own life, as in euthanasia, a physician-assisted life killing, is also to share in the guilt of that person's suicide. Deliberately to terminate the innocent life of another is murder, no matter how merciful the motives, no matter how seemingly desirable the results. Further, the Catholic Church says suicide, whether committed alone or in the presence of others, constitutes a grave loss of faith in God. It is the ultimate example of despair. Suicide contradicts the natural inclination of the human being to preserve and perpetuate his own life. It is gravely contrary to the justified love of self. Suicide is seriously contrary to justice, hope, and charity, and suicide violates the fifth commandment of the scriptures, thou shalt not kill. Further, the concept of voluntarily undergoing suffering is entirely alienated to a culture of death, which we hear about in society. In our society now, we have a throwaway culture where we can throw away any person for any reason we deem responsible, we deem want to, whatever decision that we want to make for that person's life. Pope Francis has said this throwaway culture does not apply to people. It applies to animals. So people are not to be considered in the throwaway culture because people are the creatures of God, the creation of God, the image of God. And so in that regard, people are not to be regarded as animals in a throwaway culture. Finally, I add this from on the perspective of the Catholic Church. It said that all major religions of the United States, around the world, to include the three major Jewish religions, have all consorted together and condemned suicide. They have condemned euthanasia. They have condemned this mercy killing. With all of these major religions coming together as one voice, not as all these separate voices, as one voice speaking for against euthanasia, against the mercy killing, against taking one's own life, as in suicide. All of these major religions come together and say euthanasia is killing. It is murder, and it is not to be condoned in any way to end a person's life. Regardless of mercy killing, regardless of terminal illness, the religions say euthanasia is not an act of love. The Christian Church has always been solid on its condemnation of suicide, assisted suicide, suicide itself, euthanasia. It's all considered murder. As with all moral issues, the teachings of the Catholic Church lead the way. The Church is solid as a rock and will always remain that way, mainly because the Church is built on the teachings of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you so much, Dr. Diane Groth. It's been an honor to listen to your statements on these two contentious topics, the death penalty and euthanasia. And now at this time, we will have Ms. Soli Rajan, the Faith Formation Principal for our church, St. Alphonsa Catholic Church, come and say a thank you speech to all of us. Thank you.
Oh, I'm speechless. I just can't believe that we had these many talents in our church. And I'm so proud of you guys. And we... So we we were planning to have this debate for some time, maybe a couple of years ago. Our CCD teachers and the SAIL team members, we met. And we wanted to last year, but because of COVID, we could not really do it. But this year, the SAIL team, they were ready, and the CCD teachers and our SAIL team, of course, Mr. and I have to mention that first, because without his support, I'm sure there's nothing really happening here today. And unfortunately, he could not be here today because of some commitment. But he had all his blessings today for you guys. Okay, he's always pushing for the youth to come forward and have the talent show and just everything, because I know the church is on you guys, because later on we are getting old and we have to hand over church to you guys. So this is very important for you to participating in this and just going to show your talents. And I'm so happy, and I don't even know what to say anymore. So first of all, I want to thank Action for that, and our honorable judges today, and Dr. Diane Groth, and Cyril Pampadi, and Ms. Sangeeta Naidu for coming here and judging our students and giving constructive feedbacks, and also for Dr. Diane Groth for giving us the Catholic perspective of these subjects, both capital punishment and euthanasia, because it's very thought-provoking and engaging subjects, and they were able to, of course, she was able to give that feedback to us. Thank you so much. And I would like to mention our SAIL team members. There are many of them, a lot of youth, but Bettina Shaju and Ryan Matthew, they both were working so tirelessly to make this happen, working with our high school students. And also, of course, we have Sanju here helping, Alina, and Joshua Sebastian, and Fabian was helping with the live streaming, and also Shalvin. He could not be here today, so thank you. And of course, our Thomasar and Saija. Thomasar was very instrumental in finding the topics along with the SAIL team members. And of course, Achin's blessings, we have these topics. In my words, all the teams, all 4 teams are winners, okay? So it doesn't matter who's getting the prize, but you all worked so hard and did a lot of research. I was so impressed. I'm in healthcare, and I know I prescribe narcotics because I'm pain management. I was so impressed the way you guys did the research and came up with the explanations. Of course, euthanasia is one of those very controversial subject, and I'm so happy, because if we didn't have this debate, I don't know whether we'll go and do the research on this. At least everybody's so very knowledgeable now about the subject. Thank you. And also, I want to thank all the trustees that helped us with everything, and also our CCD teachers, especially the high school teachers. They were working tirelessly with our team, our students, to make this happen. Thank you. And all the parents, and without your support, you know that, because you guys here, look at you, this hall is full, because you are here to support, even though some of your parents, you don't have your kids on the stage, but still you guys are here. Thank you so much for that. If I miss someone, please forgive me, and thank you. Please take this chance as a thank you for me. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Suryanti. We will now have the judges' comments, questions, and feedback to both teams, and we will announce the final results soon. So, whenever the judges are ready.
Hello again. You guys are very good. I have no questions, but I just want to say you guys were very well spoken. Clearly, you guys did your research, so I just want to give props to that.
As usual, I have one pointer. This idea that somebody's getting killed without their knowledge, that can be fixed with a living will. So a lot of these terminal illnesses are a time continuum. In the beginning of the diagnosis, the person is still able to make a judgment about whether they want a DNR in place. and their right to decide is important. It's Christian free will, right? And that needs to be clearly communicated, that the patient did have a say. The opposite team could have just said that. That would have solved that problem. And then the second thing is a question of Christian conscience, and the point of hospice and other alternatives to euthanasia was very well argued in this debate. I think that was a winning argument.
And I congratulate every one of you for your time and effort and just an exemplar performance. You really, really did. You did just so great in your speaking, your research, everything. It was really, really very good. I enjoyed listening to both sides. I really did. The crossfire to everything. It was very, very good. The only question that keeps coming in my mind is like the Catholic perspective. You know, that's what really, you know, we're all Catholic here, and the Catholic perspective has to override everything. But again, you know, we listen to, you know, what the world says. You know, it's God versus man. This is really what this situation is. God versus man, which side are you going to be on? And so, but anyhow, but again, I congratulate every one of you for all of your efforts, and really, really, you'll do so well in the future. Thank you.
We would now like to call Dr. Thomas to announce the results for the 10th versus 9th grade euthanasia debate.
In all of these debates, the previous one and the current one, my conclusion is draw, but then that's just me. For the 9 versus 10 debate on euthanasia, the winner is 10th grade -7 euthanasia.
Hi everyone. I invite Wilson Etchen to come to the front to say a few words.
First of all, I appreciate everyone who participated in our debate program, and also whatever you did, I don't know, I just came here, but I appreciate. And also I am very much thankful to all the judges and who take their valuable time to evaluate these things. And also I appreciate the Thomas sir and the CCD team and everyone. It was just the beginning. We will do much. We will find so many things, and we will argue on so many things. So I appreciate. Thank you.
Hi everyone. So this concludes our debate. We will be handing out the awards during after Malayalam Mass next Sunday. My personal apologies to all of the high school grades for going after you for getting your work done, but I am glad that all of you did your work. Otherwise, it would not have been this entertaining. But I have to admit that this is not an easy thing to do. Preparing for a debate requires a lot of research, and these kids have done a lot of research. Myself and Ryan have gone through every single debate. Before they got up here, we proofread everything. Me and Ryan know every debate by heart. So we were pretty confident that this would go out well. Another thing, this is the first debate in our nation. So I think as a church, we can be very proud for having executed this in very strong and full power. With that, I am done. I would like to leave. So everyone else is free to go.